Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of the MoeGamer podcast. I'm Pete Davison from MoeGamer.net, and I'm joined once again by my good friend Chris Kasky from MrGilderPixels.com. Hi there, Chris. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, Pete. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. It's actually been a while since we've been able to speak to each other directly with various business things in our respective jobs. So yeah, it's going to be good to catch up on a few things and plenty to talk about today. So
yay, adulthood.
Yes, great fun, huh? Yeah, really fun. And the last couple of weeks, we've had the adventure of defleeing our two cats as well. So that's been a lot of fun. Yes, that's been great fun. It's more complicated than you might think.
Yeah, parasites have a way of digging in there and making life miserable, don't they?
Yes, but yeah, we seem to have mostly resolved the problem now at least. So they both seem much happier, which is good. Right, so today our plan is to talk a bit about the news, as usual, to start off with, then talk a little bit about what we've been playing recently, and then our main topic for today will be, how would you describe it? Sort of modern games that are channeling retro, I guess is the way to
homage was the word I've latched on to.
Like, homage.
Modern indie games, or non-indie games that have a clear sense of homage as part of their design philosophy.
Yes.
Whether that's a specific franchise or a specific period or console, just games that are channeling something in a very specific and targeted way.
Yes, and we'll talk a bit more about this later, but this is more than just having pixel art graphics. This is
much more than that.
Fully understanding what they're paying homage to. But anyway, let's begin with the news. Now, I must confess I haven't been keeping a close eye on the news recently, so I just went through a flurry of posting stuff that came up in our gaming news channel that looked vaguely interesting yesterday. So
there wasn't much.
No. So this is all sort of little bits and pieces, but I'm sure there's some stuff to talk about among there. So first thing to mention is a while back, Microsoft announced that they are bringing their famous Flight Simulator series back, and they've released a new trailer with real-time gameplay in 4K. It looks lovely. And they've announced partnerships with Airbus, the Boeing company, Cub Crafters, Daha, I'm not sure how you pronounce that, Diamond Aircraft Industries, Icon Aircraft, Robin Aircraft, and Textron Aviation. So people who know their stuff about aeroplanes will probably know what sort of aircraft they can expect from those. So yeah, it sounds like the aircraft for the game are going to be released in waves. We don't know if they're going to be updates or if they're going to be DLC. Probably DLC, let's face it.
Sure.
But yeah, this first wave includes commercial airliners, business jets, and general aviation aircraft. So it sort of covers the main bases that Flight Simulator has always covered. And yeah, this is looking absolutely gorgeous. And I mean, for those who haven't encountered Flight Simulator before, it is literally what the name says. It is just a flight simulator. There's no sort of goals or anything to it. It is purely a game to revel in an accurate simulation of piloting an aircraft, and you're either into that or you aren't, but it's one of those experiences that it's really good to just sort of sit back and relax with. But past installments have always been accurate enough that you can literally learn how to fly a real plane using them as well. So if you have any interest in aviation or just a nicely sort of chilled out experience where you can fly around and not really do anything, then yeah, this is going to be worth keeping an eye on, I think. So it's due out for Windows 10 in 2020. They haven't said when yet, and then that will be followed by an Xbox One version at a later date. And chances are good this will probably be on Microsoft's Game Pass thing as well. So if you want to sort of try it out before you commit to actually owning a copy of it, that might be a good way to give it a go for yourself if you're not sure about it. All right, moving on. A lot of this news is from the Xbox event that was the other day, so yeah, a lot more Xbox news than we normally talk about. Neither of us...
More than zero?
Yeah.
a lot more than zero Xbox news?
Yeah, I mean, neither of us have an Xbox, so it's not something that's usually directly relevant to us, so we don't tend to pay a lot of attention to it. But there were a few interesting things that came out of this event, one of which is that Phil Spencer says that they're working on an Xbox One version of Final Fantasy XIV at last. So that will finally make that game even more cross-platform than it already is. It already supports Windows and Mac and PlayStation 4. Used to support PlayStation 3, but they abandoned that a couple of expansions ago with good reason. So yeah, an Xbox One version of Final Fantasy XIV is on the way. So his exact quote was, "I want you to know, rest assured that we will be bringing that game to Xbox. We have a great relationship with Yoshida-san, and we're working through what it means to bring to Xbox a cross-platform MMO that they've run for years." So the challenge here has always been that Microsoft's networks with Xbox Live and stuff have traditionally been quite closed, and that has made it difficult to work with cross-platform stuff like Final Fantasy XIV, which uses its own network. But with sort of a lot of recent multiplayer stuff have been sort of circumventing the whole problems with cross-platform stuff, and so yeah, presumably they've got stuff in place now that will make that much easier to go through. So prepare for an influx of new players. All right, continuing on, Minecraft Dungeons has a release date now. That's coming in April of 2020 to PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and Switch. Yeah, so this is the sort of Minecraft-inspired Diablo-like, basically, for up to 4 players. Looks like it might be quite fun. And it's noteworthy for being the first standalone game developed by Mojang since Minecraft. So,
oh, really? Didn't they have that, like, card game?
Yeah, I don't think that actually...
Scroll?
Was that Mojang, or I think that might have just been Notch.
Oh, was it just Notch? Okay,
yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and also I don't think it really went anywhere. It didn't really launch properly, I don't think. It just sort of went into beta and then sort of fizzled out. So that's a shame. But
Whatever.
yeah, so this looks potentially interesting. I mean, sort of action RPG Diablo likes are always a lot of fun, especially if you can get some friends together to play them. So this could be entertaining.
Yeah, I mean, I get commented on that like way back when it was first released, like E3, like 2 years ago, and I just think it's really cool because it's an excuse to kind of introduce younger players who may not really have prior been into the action RPG genre, but were Minecraft fans. It's like it's going to be like a gateway drug to hack and slashers for like that entire demographic.
Yeah, and I mean the different aesthetic is going to help as well, isn't it? Because as much as we both enjoy Diablo, sort of the sort of grimdark aesthetic that's got going on is quite off-putting to some people. So to have something that's sort of got a bit more colourful and sort of silliness about it than Diablo has is going to help as well.
Well, we're saying the word Diablo a lot too. Diablo 4. Yes.
Yes. So this is going to be interesting with all the sort of recent happenings surrounding Blizzard, and sort of the controversy over the Hearthstone tournament and the player getting banned and stuff. So I don't really know what to make of this yet, but what do you think of what we've seen of Diablo 4? Because we've actually seen some gameplay, haven't we?
Yeah, which was really great, right? It wasn't just, I mean, obviously classic Diablo, right? We got our awesome cinematic, like, which was basically just like a 15-minute short film that was beautiful. I don't know, it's Diablo, I'm in. Like, I'm not picky. I'm not one of those, like, Diablo 3 is the worst people. Like, I love Diablo 3 so much, I don't care. Like, it's fine. It's Diablo 4. They've really kind of modified the graphics and appearance. They've brought back a lot of like it looks like they really took the criticisms to heart that Diablo 3 was a bit too like cartoony. Like 4 is looking a lot more like gruesome and dark and more kind of akin to the atmosphere of 2, which I know a lot of people had a problem with. And most importantly, Druid's back. So Druid's my boy, so I'm very excited about it. I don't know. I mean, it looks good. It looks like it's taking kind of the crunchy action of 3, darkening it up a bit. It looks like it's a bit more deliberate this time around, a bit less arcadey. Can't wait.
Yep, good stuff. Yeah, from what I understand, they are sort of trying to win some of the Diablo 2 crowd back a bit. From what I understand, I think the progression is going to be a little bit more like Diablo 2 was from the sound of things.
Yes.
So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do with that and how people respond to it.
There's been quite a bit of discussion around the rune words system, which is going to make equipment like super customizable by like by combining rune words to make rune phrases. Which is going to basically make like no 2 players' equipment loads quite alike.
Yeah,
so
that's cool.
That's very exciting.
Yeah, that's cool. It sort of will hopefully sort of minimize the sort of, oh, you must have this build or you're not worth playing the game with.
I hate that
attitude
stuff.
That sort of it's ridiculous, isn't it? Yes. Okay. So that is on the way. What else have we got? I mentioned Xbox Game Pass earlier on. A whole bunch of Final Fantasy games are coming to that service at some point in the near future. If this page ever loads, and I can check what they are. There we are. Right, so so coming to the Xbox Game Pass subscription service are going to be Final Fantasy VII Remastered. This is not the remake, it's just the remastered version. Final Fantasy VIII Remastered, Final Fantasy IX, Final Fantasy X and X-2 HD Remaster, Final Fantasy XII The Zodiac Age, the 3 Final Fantasy XIII games, and Final Fantasy 15. And they'll be released one by one on the service throughout 2020. So this is cool, again, for those who haven't played previous Final Fantasy games and don't mind sort of going the subscription route for them. Again, if you sign up for Xbox Game Pass, you can actually get, I think it's 20% off actually buying your own copy of them as well. So you can sort of use it as a means of trying them out and then picking up a copy for yourself if you prefer. So that's neat. One thing I was thinking the other day, it would be nice to see sort of the older ones get another proper re-release that isn't the PC versions.
Sure.
Because the PC versions kind of suck. Like it would be lovely to see sort of the PSP version of the first two ported again, just as is. As I've been playing that through on my YouTube channel, and they're great. They're great. Those are really great versions of those initial Final Fantasy games, and it would be nice to have some proper, authentic, no faffing around with or enhanced versions of the SNES games as well. Just no enhanced graphics. Just port the SNES versions. It's fine. That's all anyone wants. So it would be nice to see that on like PlayStation 4 or Switch, preferably Switch, because everything is best on Switch and all that. But yeah, in the meantime, we've got this, which is cool. Continuing on, Groove Coaster YY Party with 4 exclamation marks is now available everywhere. So people were concerned this was going to be Japan only originally, but it seems that it's coming out to other regions. It's quite expensive. It's $60. But this Groove Coaster is an amazing rhythm game if you've never played it. It originally came out on, I think it was iOS, and it's very sort of abstract in presentation, but it has great music, really nice, interesting mechanics, and it's one of those rhythm games that you really sort of get in the zone while you're playing. It's really exciting and fun to play. So, Groove Coaster YY Party includes all sorts of songs from various series, and it's got stuff from Vocaloids in there, and it's even got stuff from virtual YouTubers in there as well. So it's a real sort of celebration of online music culture in a lot of ways.
I think I also remember reading that there was Undertale DLC for Groove Coaster.
Yes, I think you're right, yeah. So, keep an eye out for that. So, this appears to be now available on the Switch eShop. Not sure about other platforms offhand, but yeah, $60 on the Switch eShop at the minute. So if you want to check that out, that is now there for you to have a go. So yeah, like I say, I can highly recommend Groove Coaster. I mean, that is quite pricey, as I say, but it's a really good game. So
I think it's probably unavoidable because of the licensed nature of the music that's in it.
Yeah, almost certainly. And also, when you buy games like this on the Switch, you often tend to get a lot of content that was sold quite piecemeal on other platforms as well. Like there's a game called Muse Dash on Switch, and it's a lot more expensive on Switch than on Steam and on mobile because the Switch version has sort of all the songs included with it, whereas on Steam and on mobile you have to sort of buy individual packs of songs and stuff. So it may well be a situation like that. I haven't looked into it in further detail yet, but it is there. Continuing on, we got some new Arcade Archives releases coming along soon, which is In the Hunt, Twinbee, Bells and Whistles, Hyper Olympics, and Frogger. Now, you were very excited about In the Hunt, weren't you? So tell me a little bit about this.
In the Hunt is just this beautiful horizontal shmup, but it's exciting because it's submarine themed instead of spaceships. So it's just kind of a whole different world, and it's IREM, classic IREM game from this. There was this very specific era where IREM was making these almost painfully detailed pixel art games, and In the Hunt is one of them. Just it has this unmatched aesthetic, And there's just something delightful about playing as a submarine and having the like depth charges and bubbles come up out of like your torpedoes launch out and like the bubbles come out the back of them, and it's just awesome. It's like the people who made In the Hunt would eventually go on to make Metal Slug for SNK. Yeah. So it's got a very strong legacy. And it's just delightful, and it's as often like the weird stuff I often bring up here. Owning a copy of In the Hunt is a very precarious proposition. So like I'm looking online, and the US Saturn versions complete are going from between $100 and $200 based on condition. The PlayStation version complete over $100. Disc only in a crappy slim jewel case $50. Like it's a very difficult game to get your hands on, but very, very worth it. Except for not the PlayStation version, because PlayStation just couldn't handle 2D to save its life compared to the Saturn.
No. All right, cool. I'll keep an eye out for that then.
It's just a great opportunity to play a really beautiful and unique shmup that not a lot of people have played in the modern landscape.
Yeah, cool. So, let me just have a look. I haven't got a date on those yet, I don't think. So, yeah, these are just coming soon. And like most of the other Arcade Archives releases, those will almost certainly be on Switch, PS4, Xbox One, and PC. So keep an eye out for them soon. They seem to sort of release new installments in that series most weeks at the moment. So these will probably trickle out over the course of the next couple of months or so, I imagine.
It's also interesting that they're doing a Twin Bee game, where we don't get those very often in the West, and it's kind of Twin Bee is very much this. Like blind spot in the West for Konami's history. Twin Bee has just been so important to Konami throughout the years, and it's just never really had a presence in the West. So once again, from a historical perspective, it's going to be great to have these accessible again for modern audiences.
Yeah, that's cool. All right, continuing on, we've had a few more details of the Sega Ages version of Fantasy Zone, which is on the way. So this is going to include several additional mechanics on top of the base game, as with most of the other Sega Ages releases. This one is specifically based on the 3DS version, so it includes a lot of the enhancements from that. There's a coin stock system where you can sort of stock up on coins and start games with boosted shots and that sort of thing. There's extra bosses in the game drawn from the Master System version, but they've been enhanced to full arcade quality. But you can also turn them off if you just want the original arcade version. There's a mode called Oopa Oopa mode, where instead of playing as Oopa Oopa, you play as Oopa Oopa, his brother. In that mode, you don't have shops, and you start with the coins that are in that coin stock system. There's a different ending to it and that sort of thing as well, so it's a different way to play through the game. There's a time attack mode where you race against other players to get through the arcade mode as fast as possible, and you play that mode with infinite lives, so it's just about doing it as quickly as you can. It's got both the original and the American versions of the arcade game, which are a little bit different as well. And then there's all the standard additional features that Sega Ages versions have, like online rankings and savable replays and that sort of thing as well. So yeah, as always, this looks like this is going to be a really nice port of a classic game. Fantasy Zone, not a game I know very well, so this is one I'm going to pick up so I can get to know it a bit better.
You're going to be done once you play it.
Yeah.
Fantasy Zone is one of those games where it's just like, my friends and I love to play it. Like, I don't know why, but there's a really pleasant social component to it. Trying to take turns with it and stuff. I don't know. I have a real soft spot in my heart for it. It was one of the first Sega Ages titles I ever acquired, too. The import Saturn version of the Sega Ages release of Fantasy Zone.
Yeah.
I just love these games.
Yeah. Yeah. So, that is currently on the way. Again, don't see a date for this offhand. It just says soon for this one. So, again, Sega Ages ones sort of seem to trickle out every few weeks. And normally, they tend to sort of stealth release. So, you just sort of look at the eShop one day and you're like, oh, that's out. So, yeah, just keep an eye on the Switch eShop for that one. Okay, we've had a few more details for the Trials of Mana remake as well, which includes a whole bunch of information about some of the characters, legendary creatures, and class system and stuff that's in the game. So, yeah, a lot of interesting sounding mechanics in this. So, sort of the class changing system sounds pretty cool. So, sort of playing through a mana game with switchable jobs and that sort of thing, and giving you new abilities and different attack and defense powers and that sort of thing. And there's light and dark paths for the classes as well, depending on how you want to develop them. And then in true sort of Squaresoft tradition, all of the different classes and their light and dark variations all get different costumes and stuff. So yeah, lots of customizability coming here as well, I think. Have you had a chance to play Trials of Mana yet? The port that was in Collection of Mana.
No.
Have you had a chance to play anything recently?
Yes, yes. I promise. Actually more than lately.
No, I can't really talk because I've had Collection of Mana on my shelf for a while and haven't touched it yet. So, but yeah.
I'm pretty ashamed of myself for not having played it, considering the big hullabaloo I made about its existence. But I'm just happy to be able to own it. Oh god, I'm just looking at the art on this article.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Flamey is like one of my favorite character designs, ever. Like, ever. I love him so much. Ugh, I love these games.
I can see several girls you will like here.
Oh yeah, I know, you know.
Yeah. I think. Yeah, I'm pretty into Angela.
Yeah, well, how could you not be? It's pretty much. Yeah. These games are great. I just can't wait to. Finally dig into 3, but right now I'm too busy schlepping boxes across a post-apocalyptic landscape.
Well, yeah. Sometimes you've got to get on what's current, haven't you? So, like you say, it's not as if those are going away anywhere. So you can jump into them if it ever gets quiet again.
It's the magic of collecting physically. That game is mine, so I can play it whenever I wish.
Yes, indeed. Okay, continuing on, we've got a new Toho game, which is Gensou SkyDrift, which is launching on Switch and PC via Steam on December the 12th. This is a Toho racing game. And it appears to be vaguely sort of Double Dash inspired, but your partner character is your vehicle.
I clicked on the footage of this and I'm like, are they riding other people?
Yes.
Are the vehicles other people? And the answer is yes.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. So, so there's a roster of 20 Toho characters in this, and so sort of one rides the other one, and you can swap positions mid-match, so you can sort of swap the characters around, so the other one is on the bottom, so to speak, and each of them sort of have their own strengths and weaknesses and handling and special weapons and that sort of thing. There's 15 stages with pulse-pounding music. Apparently, Toho's got pretty cool music. So, both from the original creator and from the huge remix culture that surrounds Toho as a phenomenon. So, I don't doubt that there will be some good music in this as well. And there's story versus and time attack modes in this, and up to 8-player online matches as well. So yeah, this is going to be interesting to see. The Toho fans that I know seem quite excited about this, so because it's basically sort of a Toho fan service game, which is great. So another way of celebrating these characters. We've talked about this before about how certain franchises have strong enough casts of characters that they can do whatever they want with these characters, and it's enjoyable. And Toho is definitely one of those.
Yeah,
at this point,
no doubt.
So yeah, that's looking cool. That is due in early December the 12th. Moving on. Oh god, I've got to pronounce this again. Croixleur Sigma is getting re-released on PC with the stuff that was added to the console versions. That's coming on November 19th, so that's very soon by the time you'll hear this. I think it's going to be a free update. Oh no, beg your pardon, not free update. It is. You have to buy it again, but if you already own the original Croixleur Sigma, you get a 60% off the new one, which can be stacked on top of the 40% off sale price, which it will launch with. So you can get the sort of update for not very much money, from the sound of things. This is a really cool game. It's inspired by the Bloody Palace mode in the Devil May Cry games. So it's all sort of arena-based combat. Strong focus on chaining attacks and kills together and cancelling moves into each other and that sort of thing. And it looks really simple when you first start playing it, but there's this really appealing sort of sense of technical flowing combat to it. It's a really fun game, and the updates to the console versions that they added are pretty significant. So yeah, I understand why they're doing this as a paid update. It's a shame it's not free, but as I say, if you get 60% off for owning the original and then 40% off for the launch sale as well, you shouldn't have to pay very much for this anyway. So, have you played this at all?
I have not. I would like to. I missed the opportunity when they had the physical version on Limited Run a while back.
Yes. Yeah.
But I'm hoping. I'm kind of waiting out to see if the Switch version gets a similar treatment.
Yes.
And then I'll finally pick it up.
Yeah. Yeah, so this is a fun game. I played it back when it first came out on PC, and then I played the PS4 version when it was on PlayStation Plus, I think. And it's a lot of fun, and it's sort of developed and refined itself over time, and yeah, it's in a really good place now. It's a really fun sort of arena-based combat game. So yeah, be sure to check that out. Continuing on, we've got confirmation that the physical copies of Mary Skelter 2, which are going to be quite limited in quantity, I think, they will have both Mary Skelter games on the cartridge.
Yes.
So it's not a case of you get Mary Skelter 2 on the cartridge and then have to download the first one. They're both there on the cartridge, so the physical copy is complete, which is fantastic news.
Yes.
Even though I've already got a copy of the Vita version that I haven't touched yet, but yeah, it will be nice to have them both on Switch ready to go. So
the only caveat, which is weird, the way the games are set up on the game, and this was true of the Japanese version too, you have to beat the second one to unlock the first one.
Oh, really? That's strange.
Yeah. But if you download the first one, it'll unlock the ability to play it first.
Oh, the article I got in front of me here says that there's free DLC to unlock it rather than having to download the whole game.
Yeah. So the game is on the cart, but you do have to download a bit of an update to have the option to access the first one first, if you want to play them in proper order. But the actual data is there on the cart. It's a very complete package.
That's cool. So the physical copies for this are going to be sold through limited run games, and the pre-orders are opening on November the 26th and running until January the 10th. It'll be $50. The digital version is $40. We don't know as yet, I don't think, if Idea Factory International are going to do a run on this, because the Azure Lane game that is coming out next year, the American version of that is being distributed through limited run games, but the European version is going through Idea Factory International. So I don't know if that's going to happen the same with this. They haven't said anything about this, and Idea Factory have apparently been quoted as saying that there's no plans for a collector's edition for this title either. So, but that may well change in the future, so keep an eye out for things. Either way, yeah, physical version of that, great news. Okay, carrying on, and vaguely relevant to what we'll be talking about later on, there's a bunch of Shovel Knight stuff releasing on December the 10th of this year. So that includes Shovel Knight King of Cards and Shovel Knight Showdown. So King of Cards is the standalone expansion for Shovel Knight, and then Shovel Knight Showdown is a local multiplayer game. And this is coming for what platforms? Pretty much everything from the sound of things, except 3DS and Vita. But you know, who cares at this point?
Yeah, unfortunately. The big news here too is that the physical release of Treasure Trove for the Switch, at least, has a established release date, also of December 10th. And Yacht Club, the developers, have confirmed that the cart has everything on it.
Yeah.
So this is a definitive collection of the past 5 years of Shovel Knight, All 3 standalone, the original game with all enhancements, all 3 standalone expansions, and the fighting game are all on cart. They've said obviously if there's glitches and patches, they can't control that and they're going to fix them. So they can't say there'll be no updates ever. But this is going to be an ownable, complete archive of the past 5 years of the entire Shovel Knight franchise.
Fantastic. Yeah, might have to pick that up myself because Shovel Knight I haven't actually got around to playing yet. So this is clearly the time to take a look at it.
Yes, it's
very nice.
Going to be super exciting.
Yeah. There's some new amiibo coming as well.
Yeah.
There's a gold Shovel Knight coming out as a standalone one, and then there's a 3-pack including King Knight, Plague Knight, and Spectre Knight. So yeah, if you want some more stuff to clutter your shelves up with, then there you go.
Yeah. They're really nice. The sculpts on them are really nice. I mean, that's nothing new for amiibo, but they're very cool.
Yeah. Cool. All right, one you posted here that I haven't looked at yet. Wattam will help you reconnect people on December the 17th of 2019. So this is a new game from Katamari Damacy creator Keita Takahashi.
Yes.
And it's about giving gifts and having fun together with huge, colourful explosions, apparently.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's all that we know about it, really. It looks very much like Katamari. It's got that distinctive Takahashi style about it with sort of pastel colours and sort of stylized things, and no idea what's going on with this, but Takahashi's always a good time, isn't it?
Yeah, my impression is that it's probably going to be an experience pretty akin to what Nabi Nabi Boy was.
Yes,
kind of a non-game game where it's more about, and this is Takahashi's focus is developing these kind of digital playgrounds that are less about goals and pressure, and just creating these play spaces in a digital sphere. So
yeah,
that's the feeling I'm getting from this. Is it's going to be kind of that with a heavy social component.
Yeah, so that sounds interesting. So that's December the 17th that is coming out, and it's coming to PlayStation 4 and PC via the Epic Game Store. Boo, here, so I don't want to use the Epic Game Store, blah, 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 whatever. But yeah, so intrigued to see that, because I actually quite like Nobi Nobi Boy.
Me too.
It was very, very odd, but it was that kind of thing that you just sort of really enjoy playing with, because it had a really nice sense of... I don't know if tactile is the right word, but you just sort of really felt like you were kind of wrapping around things and pulling things around and that sort of thing. And I suppose the Katamari series has always been pretty good at that as well. But it just felt nice to play with that game. So
it was always
be similar.
Great game for company. Like Nabi Nabi Boy was always something I would fire up when I had people over who maybe weren't huge gamers, and we just wanted to have fun and experiment with something silly, and it was one of those games you could make memories out of and laugh and just the silly impromptu things that would happen.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, and then the final bit of news we got today is that Arc of Alchemist, which is the new one from Compile Heart, the Switch version with its new features that have been added is going to be available everywhere. So originally there was a PS4 version of this, and the Switch version has got a bunch of enhancements, such as being able to switch to the other playable characters, improved UI, more facilities at bases, more items to collect, and so on. So it sounds like this Switch version is going to be the definitive way to experience this, and it's going to get a physical release as well. So looking forward to this, because this looks like a lot of fun. It's got a lovely sort of stylized, sort of vaguely dumpy appearance to the characters, and yeah, it just looks like it's going to be a lot of fun.
Ooh, so did we get it? European physical and digital. I'm going to have to import this.
Yeah.
I really want this game. It looks great. It looks so up my alley.
Yeah, definitely. So, this is looking like early 2020 for this one. So there's going to be a whole bunch of Idea Factory stuff coming out in early 2020, because we've got the Azure Lane game coming out around then as well. So keep an eye out for those. All right, I think that's everything. Anything else you want to bring up before we move on?
No, I think that's it. Not a whole heck of a lot going on. We're approaching the holiday season, right? This is kind of a lull time for news.
Yeah, so, I mean, a lot of the big stuff has already come out, and we will talk about some of that in the next segment. But, it's going to be a bit of a lull until probably the new year at this point. But I mean, there might be some nice sales and stuff coming up, so keep an eye out on the various storefronts for that. Anyway, okay, let's take a short break then, and we'll come back and we'll talk about what we've been playing lately. So see you in a moment. Welcome back. For our second segment, we like to talk about what we've been playing recently, and we've both been playing stuff. We've both been playing some quite big-name games recently as well. So, Chris, would you like to start?
Yeah, I guess I can talk to you all about my new part-time job as a courier in a post-apocalyptic landscape. I've been playing a ton of Death Stranding, an almost record amount of playing video games for me. Death Stranding came out last Friday. And I've already logged like 16 hours, which is crazy for me. It's not crazy for normal people who like video games, but with everything I have going on, that's a lot for me. So I've been digging in pretty deep into this bad boy. Still not sure if I actually like it or if it's a good game, but it is a super interesting game with a lot to say about game design. It's definitely Kojima's most postmodern work. This game does not care if you're not having fun. And it's just a really interesting artifact, and I don't even know if I can really do it justice giving it like 20 minutes of lip service. Like I could talk about this game for a very long time. But it essentially just doesn't care about what a video game is or traditionally should be.
Yeah.
It just you have to be able to engage with it on its own terms. And during the early stages of playing it, I was really quite unhappy with it until I stopped myself and reminded myself of our key philosophy, which is you have to engage with it on its own terms. And once I started playing it the way it wanted to be played and understanding and thinking about its concepts the way it wanted me to, then I really started becoming addicted to it. Now I think about it all the time. So, for those of us who are unaware or haven't watched footage, Death Stranding is essentially a game about delivering packages. The main point of the game being that you are not a soldier, right? You're not a soldier, you're not a warrior, you are a courier. You are a man who is very good at delivering packages between point A to point B in this post-apocalyptic world. And the main thing being that you have a unique gift that is extremely rare, that you can't really die. Because in the world, there's these ghosts from like the other world that will chase you and try to kill you. And what happens is if one of these ghosts connects with you and it pulls you into the other world, there's basically a nuclear explosion called a void out that can destroy entire cities. So if just one person gets caught by these ghosts, the entire city they're in can be destroyed.
Yeesh.
Like millions of people will die.
Yeah.
If just one person gets caught by these ghosts. So you are in a unique position to be this courier, because if they get you, this doesn't happen.
Right.
So like you're the only man who can safely deliver medicine and supplies between these underground bunkers to keep humanity running.
Okay.
So that's what you do. You go to Bunker A, and Bunker A is like, listen, my 3D printer is working. My 3D printer has made a lot of repair parts that they need in the next bunker. Like, please take them there. It's our hope that the package will arrive with less than 50% damage. And then you have to do everything in your power to get it there. Be it climbing a mountain, forging across a river, fighting your way through a camp of smugglers who are going to try to take the package from you. Just whatever it takes to get that package there in good condition. And you get them those materials and those pieces, and then they may be able to fix their 3D printer, and there might be an engineer in their camp who can make a new type of motorcycle for you to make the next job easier. It's just all about connecting people so that their lives can be better, and then in their way, they can then make your job easier by creating those connections. Then there's a very heavy asynchronous multiplayer component, which feels a little inspired by the Souls games in some ways. So, like, imagine how, like, you could leave the messages in the Souls games. Now, imagine if you could actually do things besides leaving messages that would actually make other people's lives better.
Yeah.
So you might have an excess of metals. You might leave a bridge across a river, and then that might appear in my game to make my next delivery easier.
Oh, that's cool.
So it's a completely collaborative asynchronous multiplayer where you're building devices, structures, safe houses, all in the instance of helping yourself, and then that trickles down into making other people's experience better or easier.
Yeah. Okay. Is that stuff permanent, or does it just sort of randomly crop up in different people's games?
So it's kind of random, but also it's not permanent. So like one of the factors in the game that's part of the narrative is something called timefall, which is basically rain. Anything that touches rain ages rapidly.
Okay.
So structures in the world don't last because the rain essentially degrades them and corrodes them until they age and fall apart. So it's something you have to deal with because you have to worry about the condition of your packages.
Okay.
Like if it's raining, you have to seek shelter, or you have to carry materials to repair your containers after they've been rained on. But that also means that structures that you build, unless you're returning to them to repair them or enhance them with materials or build up their resistance to the rain through leveled upgrades, like they will eventually degrade and not be there anymore. So the world is always kind of cycling because of this.
Okay. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, full of fascinating concepts, but just not a traditional game in any way, shape, or form. The combat is abysmal. On purpose, because you're not a soldier, right? You're fighting to survive, and your goal is not to really kill anything so much as it is just to get out of a bad situation so you can survive to make your delivery happen. There are, like I mentioned, like terrorist and smuggler camps, and you can clear them out in order to get access to the claim back the stuff they've stolen, and also make other people's lives easier by clearing that path, but they'll eventually respawn because you can't kill them.
Right.
Because it's part of the narrative that if anyone dies in this world, it causes one of those void outs.
Right. So
there is no death. Mm-hmm. Like, everything you do, even when fighting human opponents, is non-lethal. You subdue guys and tie them up or tranquilize them, right? Like, I got the first, quote, gun on end quote, but it's just a bola gun that launches a restraint so that you can escape. Okay. It's not, there's no death because people can't die. It's devastating if anyone dies in this world. Mm-hmm. Like, if someone dies of natural causes, like, they have to hire a courier to take the body miles away from the city to an incinerator.
Yeah.
Before the body causes an explosion.
Right.
Like, so, like, Kojima has baked into the narrative of this world this idea that, like, we need to stop killing each other, even our antagonists, because when we kill, it's devastating to the world around us. So, like, all these philosophical notions of, like, connections and helping instead of hindering one another, it's all baked into the story. Kind of the nature of man is to connect and to help. It's really fascinating.
Cool. I'm glad this has come out really well, because I know a lot of people that were sort of cynical and thinking this was never going to come out or it's going to be absolute garbage or that sort of thing. But yeah, I've been trying to avoid spoilers as much as possible, but I know that they're going to be unavoidable. So but I'm happy to hear some stuff about it, and it sounds absolutely fascinating.
It's a really interesting game.
Sounds like proper full on Kojima doing what he does best, which is to sort of explore various sort of philosophical concepts and things about society and that sort of thing through interesting and often unconventional gameplay things. So yeah,
it also feels very Yoko Taro at times.
Yeah,
just this sadness that like suffuses like every inch of this game. It's really challenging sometimes to deal with, like this is a very like, this isn't a bombastic post-apocalypse, right?
Yeah,
like this is a post-apocalypse that happened a long time ago. So like this is just how these people live now.
Yeah,
and like you meet people who've never been outside of the bunkers. Like who grew up and were born and raised in the bunkers and never left.
Yeah.
And it's kind of an exploration of that. Right? Like this isn't Mad Max. We're not like driving jeeps across the desert to like shoot rocket launchers at each other. Like people are barely holding on. They don't have the things they need to survive because this has been happening for so long. So it's a really sad and kind of mellow look at this kind of world where everything's gone to shit. And you are a beacon of hope in that for people.
Yeah, I'm not generally huge on post-apocalyptic stuff in general, but that sort of approach that you're describing there is what I prefer. Like, I'm really tired of the sort of Mad Max style stuff. It's why I don't really enjoy sort of the Fallout series that much either.
Sure.
Because that's all sort of like, oh, mutants and big creatures and people on motorbikes and that sort of thing. And no, I just prefer the sort of melancholy atmosphere of everything got completely fucked a long time ago and there's nothing that anyone can do about it, but there's still some people who survived and they're just having to deal with it and that sort of thing. And like you say, Yoko Taro has always been very good at that, and I can see why you're making that connection with this as well. Cool. Yeah,
it's worth. I mean, the major caveat is if you don't like open world games, you're not gonna like this one, because this is, for all of its things it does special, it's very much an open world game. It's just huge, empty expanses of nothing to do, and because all of humanity lives in bunkers, like, you don't see people, you don't meet people. Any people you meet are occasionally, you'll see other couriers doing their job and you can like wave to them, but like everyone you deal with is a hologram because everyone's holed up in their bunkers. Like, you meet very few people, you interact with very few people. The narrative just drives on when you reach certain milestones, but otherwise you're just in this super bleak, super empty open world, just running boxes back and forth. So there is, like, I find as much as I'm enjoying it, I can't really play it for more than maybe 2 hours at a time, or else I start to get pretty frustrated and bored with it. I have to pace myself with it.
Yeah. It's interesting because, I mean, some of that is going to come from mechanical frustration, but I imagine it's quite emotionally exhausting as well to deal with that.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. And one of the things that makes it challenging, and I think this is one of the things that puts off a lot of people, is that there's never a moment in Death Stranding that you feel powerful.
Right.
So in other open world games, because I like traditional Western open world games, like I have all the Assassin's Creeds, right? But like in Assassin's Creed, you feel powerful. Like, you've got your weapons, you've upgraded your stuff, you're sneaking around, you're taking guys out. When you get in these combat situations, you've got all the tools and moves necessary to get yourself out, to look cool and feel cool. There is never a time in Death Stranding where that's the case.
Yeah.
You're always woefully under-equipped, and you're trying to protect the goods you're carrying. And when you're carrying 170 kilos of metal boxes on your back, you get hit once, you fall over, all your boxes scatter. Then you have to make a split decision. Do I fight back? Do I run to save my life and risk having all of the packages get stolen by the smugglers? Do I try to fight them knowing that there's 6 of them and they can probably take me down in seconds because they've all got cattle prods and all I have is a rope? Like, you never feel equipped for a situation you're in.
Yeah.
And that's a very different dynamic than what most people are used to in a game.
Yeah, definitely. That sounds really interesting.
So yeah, that's Death Stranding.
Yeah. Well, shall I contrast that then with Pokemon?
Please do. Yes, please do.
Yeah, so I picked up Pokemon Sword yesterday. I had it pre-order for a while and it arrived on release day, which was nice. Although it arrived just as my lunchtime was finishing at work, so I wasn't able to nip home and pick it up for a quick play. But yeah, I spent a lot of the evening playing it, and I've spent a bit of this morning playing it as well. And it's lovely. It's lovely. It is simply a nice, comfy, colourful, enjoyable game. It's exactly what a Pokemon game should be. It's sort of young Pokemon trainer going out on an adventure, going with their best friend, meeting people, having Pokemon battles, finding things, that sort of thing. It's just lovely. It's one of those games that you just sort of play with a big smile on your face, and it's really enjoyable. I haven't been sort of huge into Pokemon in the past, not because I don't like them or anything like that. They've just sort of never been a big priority for me, but I jumped on Pokemon Y a while back and didn't love it. I don't think I sort of gave it enough of a chance, but I didn't love Pokemon Y, and I understand that there's sort of people out there who generally didn't think Pokemon X and Y were quite as good as some of the other ones. But I really enjoyed Moon when that came out. And again, I know some people didn't like that one because of its strong emphasis on sort of story and lots of cutscenes and that sort of thing, and people thought it held your hand a bit too much. But at the same time, for people like me, Moon worked really well because it held your hand a bit. For people who weren't overly familiar with Pokemon, it gave you some good suggestions as to what to do and how to do that sort of thing. What Pokemon Sword and Shield do is that it sort of seems to strike quite a good balance between those approaches. So in a lot of situations, if you sort of display your knowledge about something, like say type matchups, it'll just skip the tutorials that it would have given you at that point. So like,
that's
nice. Your first few rival battles, like if you know that you've got Scorbunny, who is fire, and you're fighting against what's it called, Grookey, who's the grass type, and if you use the fire type move on him, that's a type advantage. Like if you exhibit that, your rival will acknowledge that, and then he knows that he doesn't need to explain type matchups to you because you've just shown that you know how to do it. And there's also sort of bits throughout the game where you meet up with people like Sonia, and she will explain stuff to you, and she'll say, oh, do you want to hear the whole story, or do you just want to hear the short version? And like, you have the option of hearing the short version if you want to as well. So
that's the best of both worlds kind of scenario.
So it's really sort of taken on board a lot of things that people have said about it, which is nice. So yeah, really enjoying it so far. I've just sort of got up to the first big town, which is a sort of big industrial town. It's appeared in a lot of the trailers. It's the one with sort of the high brick walls and sort of the steam wheels and that sort of thing. And sort of the scale of it is really impressive. But sort of the overall feel of the game is very much like the old Pokemon games. There's kind of a distinction between sort of the towns and the routes and the wild areas. So you sort of have a quick trip through the first wild area on your way to this first town, and that sort of shows that things are going to be very different. This is a big open area that you can explore, you can find things, there's lots of Pokemon around. But when you are in towns, or when you're on the sort of properly organised routes and stuff, it plays a lot more like the older Pokemon, so almost like it's playing in 2D. So there's sort of a distinction between those two different styles of play there, and the ability to kind of switch back and forth between them according to what you want to do. So the wild areas are very much designed to be a good place to go and explore and catch lots of new Pokemon and sort of test your skills against different challenges and find items and that sort of thing. And then when you want to make more structured progress, you go into one of the towns, you follow one of the routes, that sort of thing. So again, it's a sort of best of both worlds approach rather than sort of taking one and sticking with it, which is quite interesting. I haven't done a ton in the wild area yet, but it's quite interesting to see that while you're wandering around, if you connect to the internet, you can sort of actually see other players wandering around and riding their bikes and sort of looking in Pokemon dens and stuff, and you can walk up and talk to them and they'll give you items, and you've got a sort of it's called the Wycom system, which sort of automatically sends messages out when people are doing stuff. It's a little bit like, if you remember in Xenoblade X, there was the report system where stuff appeared in the corner of the screen when you did stuff automatically. So rather than a sort of actual chat system, you had sort of things automatically popping up when things happened. And in certain cases, you can click on those things. Like if someone starts one of the co-op raid battles, you can click on their message to go and join that battle and help them out and that sort of thing as well. So there's a strong social component to it, but you can turn that off completely if you want to as well. You can just play it in local wireless mode, which means the only messages you will appear from people who are actually nearby to you. So if you don't want sort of the interruptions from other people online, yeah, you can turn that off altogether. Again, best of both worlds. That seems to be sort of a big thing with this game. It's sort of, you can kind of customize the experience to how you want to play it. So if you want a very social experience with lots of other people and seeing what other people are up to, you can have that. If you just want to enjoy it for yourself, you can do that too, which is super cool.
That sounds great.
Yeah, lots of nice quality of life improvements. So sort of things like the interface while you're in battle and stuff. You can sort of clearly see how much various stats have been raised and lowered and stuff, which is always something that bugged me a bit in the old Pokemons. It was quite difficult to find that information.
Like your defense has been lowered, but yes, by how much? What does that mean?
Yeah. So now the message that pops up is still that your defense falls, but you can pop up an info screen and you can see that like your defense has been lowered by like 5 arrows worth or whatever, and that sort of gives you a much better idea of how much you need to do to recover, or whether you need to withdraw that Pokemon or that sort of thing. It sort of indicates on the moves as well when you've encountered a Pokemon or added them to your Pokedex for the first time. It sort of indicates on the moves themselves which ones are going to be super effective or not very effective, so you don't have to keep going back and forth and searching for information. Yeah, lots of nice little quality of life improvements there. And,
it's amazing to me that quality of life improvements in Pokemon are still possible.
Yeah,
like they've been fine-tuning and iterating on this formula forever. And it just amazes me that it still gets better. Like they've still found ways to be like, let's tweak this thing.
Yeah. At the same time, it's kind of strange how some of them, it took them so long to do certain things as well.
Yes, that's true. That's true. I mean, some of it's been hardware limitations.
Yeah.
But once the 3DS was a thing, there was pretty much very little that they couldn't do. Yeah.
And I think sort of the addition of the internet to Pokemon has been huge as well. So sort of ever since you had the ability to actually connect the game to the internet and do trades and battles and stuff with people online, that's just completely changed the very nature of the game. Because one of the reasons that I never really engaged with the early Pokemon games was just because I had no one I could play them with.
Sure.
And so there is that substantial single-player component there, but it always feels like part of the experience should be that trading, that battling, that getting involved with other people, that talking to other people about what you've done, what you've found, and that sort of thing. And sort of with the more modern games and the fact you can connect to the internet and it being Nintendo rather than communicating directly, it's very sort of passive communication, but it's enough to give it a feel of more liveliness and more socialness and
being a part of something.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it really feels nice. So yeah, I'm enjoying it a lot so far, and so that all of the kind of whining and bitching that there has been about this game on the internet, it's just been quite amusing to see how much of that was just lies. And it's ridiculous.
I don't even know. Like, I don't even know what people were angry about besides the national decks not being a part of the picture this time. Like, I stopped paying attention.
Yeah, no, I don't know. It's like it just got to a point where it was just accusations of Game Freak being lazy was the main thing, and sort of saying that they weren't putting enough effort into this game, and sort of the cutting of the national decks was the biggest symptom of this, but that then led people on to sort of looking at all the places they'd supposedly cut corners in elsewhere.
Yeah,
but
because they played the game and they knew, because they were on the development. Like, never mind that this was once again like lazy. This is a whole new engine, right? Like, this is a new engine for Pokemon. Like, they had to rebuild an entire world from the ground up again.
Yep,
but lazy, right?
Yeah.
Like, get over yourselves.
Exactly. And I mean, I'm going to take a fairly strong stance on this because, you know, it's something I try not to get involved with, but anyone who's sort of been involved in the behaviour I've seen online around this should be absolutely ashamed of themselves, because it's not just been whining, it's been actual sort of offensive messages and harassment of developers and stuff, and it's just been disgusting.
Yeah.
And I'm really, really upset that it's sort of marred such a cool game, what's turned out to be such a cool game, with all this negativity. It's Pokemon. It is a cool game that happens to be for kids, but there's lots of people out there who still enjoy it. There's lots of adults who still enjoy it. There's lots of people who are coming to it for the first time, and for the whole thing to be marred with this disgusting negativity, I'm just really ashamed of it. It's really foul, and like I say, I haven't sort of deliberately tried to get involved with this, but it's just been so unavoidable in certain places that, yeah, it just baffles me, because it's like a lot of the stuff that these people were accusing the game of. It's like, did they not think that when the game came out, people would immediately disprove them?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. And like, you know, all the anger around this stuff, really, like, you hit the nail on the head there with, like, 4 kids, right? Like, yeah. Okay, you're a 35-year-old man who's been playing Pokemon his entire life, and you're a fan, and you expect and want certain things. That's cool. I get it. Now pull your head out of your own ass and look at this game from the perspective of an 11-year-old who's never played an RPG before.
Yep.
Like an 11-year-old who maybe watches the cartoon after school and has never had a DS. And this is the first time they're ever going to get to play a Pokemon game.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, you know, it's all a matter of perspective.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. And you've got to ask yourself what really matters as well. So you can look at this game and you can think, is the Switch hardware sort of not quite powerful enough for the grand ambitions this game has? Probably, in places. But does it matter? No. Because it plays perfectly well. It's a turn-based RPG. It doesn't need to be running at 60 frames a second. It doesn't need to have super fancy graphics or anything like that. It doesn't look bad. That's the thing. It's like, who cares if the shadows cut off after a certain distance, or like people pop in from the distance? Who gives a fuck?
Go buy a PS4 or an Xbox. Pro tip. Like, I didn't really think there was that much cross section between people who cared about pop-in and people who liked Pokemon. I thought that was two totally different demographics.
Yeah.
Like, get over it.
You know what? I'm pretty sure it is, because I'd be interested to know how many of these people who... I get the impression so much of it is bandwagon jumping.
Yeah.
So sort of people saw an opportunity of something to get angry and upset about, even if it was nothing to do with that. No. Surely not. But yeah, like I say, it's been a shame that this game has been marred by that, because it is such a lovely, charming game. It is everything that I hoped it would be so far. It's just been a delight. So I want to focus on that positive side of things. I've just been enjoying it. I haven't been looking at what other people have been saying, aside from my friends and acquaintances who are also playing it and having a good time with it. And that's the way to do it. Again, as we've always said, take the game on its own merits, judge it for what it is, enjoy it. You may as well enjoy it, because if you pick it up and you decide to hate it, well, what's the point?
Yeah, then you pop your copy up on eBay and never think about it again. Like,
yeah, exactly. But yeah. So I've been enjoying it a lot so far. As I say, not been a huge Pokemon fan in the past, but I'm definitely excited to explore and get involved with this one and see what's going on. And I'm going to do some detailed coverage of this over on MoeGamer as well, because it's a game I want to engage with. I want to study it. I want to learn a bit more about the history of it. So, yeah, this seems like an ideal opportunity to do that. It's a historically significant moment in the franchise, for it being sort of the first full-scale Pokemon on a home console.
Yes.
So,
I'm terrified to even start my copy because of it. Like, I really didn't sync up well with Sun and Moon, because I had just reached a point where I was just kind of tired of fiddling on handhelds.
Yeah.
And I didn't really latch onto it. But, like... God, I'm terrified of the actual first full television console Pokemon game. Like, it is a prospect that actually frightens me. And I'll tell you what, controversial maybe, I'm friggin' grateful that the National Dex isn't involved in this, because
me too.
It's a fresh start, and it'll be less of a time siphon. If I was chasing the National Dex on the television, I'd just I'd lose my job, I'd lose my friends. Game Freak did me a favor.
Yeah. No, but it's great, and you're absolutely right to be scared, because everyone I've spoken to who started playing it was like, well, I fired up Pokemon after work, and then sort of 5 hours later I looked up and it was, Then
I went to work.
Yeah.
Because, like, let's be clear here. Like, we talked a lot about, like, game design and stuff, but, like, to move things into the artistic sphere, like, time and time again, Pokemon is the world I want to live in. Mm-hmm. Like, if you asked me, what game world do you want to live in the most? Out of every game you've ever played in your entire life, it's always going to be the Pokemon world.
Yeah.
Like, this is the most wholesome, happy, beautiful place where people help each other and care about each other, and everything's about friendship, and I want to live in the Pokemon world so much. Yeah. Like, when I get into Pokemon, it's not just because I'm addicted to the gameplay, it's because this is a world I want to be a part of, and I really get sucked into participating in and exploring the world of Pokemon games.
Yes. And this is very apparent for me in Pokemon Sword and Shield, just because the world that is presented here is such a beautifully realized, idealized version of Britain. And
yes, it's your world, a celebration of your world.
They have absolutely nailed it. Like, from the moment you step out from your house, which is this lovely little country cottage with like a vegetable patch outside, and there's sort of the garden's slightly overgrown but not uncontrollably so, and you go around the corner to your friend's house, and he lives in like what is clearly a big old converted farmhouse and that sort of thing. It's just like this is like the village I grew up in. Like, this house that I'm going to, that my friend lives at in Pokemon, this is the house that we used to go into when we went carol singing, and we used to get invited in for mince pies and mulled wine and that sort of thing. And it's just like, then you wander down the road and then you get to the next little village, and it's a village that's still got a train station running in it, and it's like everyone is just nice to each other, and you make your way through and you catch a train and you go to the big city, but the big city is still sort of quaint and very old school. It's sort of very, very inspired by sort of traditional factory towns here in the UK. They have absolutely nailed the atmosphere and aesthetic of it. It's just wonderful.
And it really makes you respect that this is coming from a Japanese development studio. So they don't have this knowledge of what it's like to grow up in that world, which means they took the time to learn.
Yes.
They took the time to learn, study, and observe, and find out what is so wholesome and inviting about this national character, right? And truly understand it so that they could recreate it in a respectful and celebratory way. And when you really think about the amount of time it must have took to develop that understanding, then produce this product that shows it to you in this fashion, it's mind-boggling, to be frank.
Yeah, it's amazing. I'm really looking forward to seeing what else this world has to offer, because like you can see sort of a very stylized map of the whole world right from the beginning, and you can sort of see what sort of the basic style of the different towns and so on. And I'm just really looking forward to visiting some of these places and going, oh yeah, I've been there. Yeah. Oh, it's a delight. Yeah. So,
most important question of all: have you clashed with Marnie yet?
I've met Marnie. I haven't fought her yet. So she sort of shows up, in the first big town you get to. There's like supposed to be this big opening ceremony for the gym challenge, which is the big ongoing challenge throughout the story. And there's a bunch of sort of uniformed people called Team something at the thing, and it's sort of set up to be like your traditional sort of Team Rocket, Team Galactic, Team whatever thing in Pokemon. But you basically kick the shit out of them one at a time, and it turns out they're just fanboys of Marnie, who just shows up and sort of apologizes for them and that sort of thing. So, yeah. But yeah, she shows up and she's super cute, and we've seen Nessa for the first time, and Bia has shown up, and yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. Looking forward to meeting everyone, and the lasses in this game are super cute.
Yeah. Yay, yeah. Pokemon girls.
Yay. And of course, there are lots of excellent fashion options as well. Plus, sort of you. And you can sort of take a photo of yourself for your league card, which you can then exchange with other people as well. And you can pull different faces and do different poses and stuff on it. So, again, lots of character customization in there as well. But I know a lot of people I know are going to be spending as much time on as they are on actually catching Pokemon as well. So,
I hope I can get a nice pea coat. That's all I want.
Yeah, there's been some nice coats and stuff for the female character earlier on. The sort of like big warm jackets and cardigans and stuff like that. So I'm sure you can find what you're looking for. Awesome. Yeah, good stuff. Yeah, so I'm really enjoying that at the moment. So that will be the next subject on MoeGamer after I've finished with Bullet Girls Fantasia, which will be probably next week or so when I write about the story of that. So I won't talk too much about that now because I've written several articles about it on MoeGamer.net, so go check that out if you want to know a bit more. I think aside from the things I want to talk about in the next segment, that's pretty much it for me. Is there anything else you want to bring up?
No, same. A lot of the other stuff I've been playing is stuff that prompted the next segment's topic in the first place. So
yeah. Exactly. All right, let's take a short break then, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about our main topic for today. So, we'll see you in a moment. Welcome back. For our third segment, we're going to be talking about homage games, which are games that specifically pay tribute to individual games or series or mechanics or styles of the past. So this is not just talking about retro-style modern games. This is talking about games that are sort of making a specific effort to sort of encapsulate the overall style of stuff that came from the past. Not necessarily recreate it exactly, but maybe sort of take the ideas of that and then modernize that slightly in some ways. So,
and add its own identity, I think, is a really important part of this for me, too. Because I'm not talking about stuff like Sonic Mania, right? Like, Sonic Mania was a modern Sonic game paying tribute to Sonic games, but it was still a Sonic game. Like, I'm talking about stuff that is capturing and celebrating a specific franchise or style, but is also very much its own thing. More of a celebration with a unique identity.
Yes. Okay. So I think given that you've brought up Sonic already, I think probably the best place to start then is with Freedom Planet.
Yeah, that's definitely where this conversation came from in our discussions. We were like, all right, what topic can we do to give us an excuse to rave about Freedom Planet for 40 minutes? And this is what happened.
Yeah. So, Freedom Planet, if you're not familiar, is a game that came out in 2014. It originally started life as a Sonic fan game, but the creators realised sort of partway through development that keeping it as a Sonic fan game would sort of limit what they were able to do with the game, limit how original they could be with that sort of thing, and also limit the game's eventual audience as well, because by its very nature, if you're making a fan game, then you're probably never going to be able to get an official release out there unless you get a sort of Sonic Mania type situation, which
once in a lifetime.
Yeah,
Sonic Mania.
But by the time that sort of happened, Freedom Planet was sort of well before Sonic Mania was even sort of whispered of. So they made the right choice here. So what happened was that the creator of the game tried to design some of his own original characters and just couldn't get anything that was quite right for it. And so he went to DeviantArt to find some inspiration. and he came across a Chinese artist who had created these characters called Sash Lilac, Carol T, and Mila. Has Mila got a surname? I can't remember. And Mila. And these were sort
Mila exists.
So these are sort of anthropomorphic animal characters. So Lilac is supposedly a dragon, but she's sort of inspired by the designs of the Sonic characters and so on. But she's sort of got her own distinctive take on things as well. And then Carol is a wildcat, I think, isn't she? Mm-hmm. And then Mila is a dog. So they took these characters and they incorporated them into what was this Sonic fan game and turned it into its own thing with its own story, its own setting and so on, and created something absolutely magnificent in the process. So yeah, I mean, I think you were the one who introduced Freedom Planet to me in the first place, quite possibly, or I can't remember actually, because I've certainly been aware of it for a long time, because I've been aware of the PC version for a lot longer than I've actually sort of been playing it, because I've only really been actively playing it since I picked up the physical version of the Switch version. But yeah, tell me about how you came across this in the first place and what it means to you.
I had always been aware of Freedom Planet, even from its early development stages. Specific, because I've never been afraid to talk about it on this podcast before, but like I am involved in like the furry community on the art side of things. So like when these characters first started coming about, like in a lot of the art strings I follow on message boards and stuff, I was just like, these designs are great, like what is this? And then I kind of followed that through line and discovered Freedom Planet in its very early stages, I think, even while it was being developed. So I had always kind of had it on my radar even before 2014, and then I was just lucky enough to snag it on a Humble Bundle, and play it and like instantly fall in love with it. Because I think it's pretty much the poster child for exactly what we're talking about here, in that it is definitely Sonic. Like, it feels so much like Sonic, but it feels like it understands what made Sonic fun and then wants to do its own thing. So, for instance, Freedom Planet, as we just mentioned, has 3 distinct playable characters. Every single one of those characters plays radically differently. You have an attack button in Freedom Planet, right? Like, you can't jump on enemies' heads like you can in Sonic. So it's different, right? You've got punches and kicks and special moves to pull off, and Lilac can do a freaking Ryu Dragon Punch. Like, it takes things that are great about Sonic, stage gimmicks, large, hugely explorable areas, an emphasis on kind of audio and visual synergy, like an outstanding soundtrack. These are all hallmarks that we associate with the Sonic series, but then adds its own unique mechanics and ways of exploring that world. And another thing that it added on, which Sonic always lacked until the Dreamcast era, is a completely voice-acted narrative story mode.
Yes.
Which would have, like, can you imagine being young and like playing Sonic and actually having like voice-acted vignettes where like the story is explored in between stages? Like, it's all I ever wanted when I was a kid. And like Freedom Planet gave it to me. Like, Freedom Planet is the 32-bit Saturn Sonic game that I always dreamt of. And never got. It's
excellent. And the story in Freedom Planet is really good as well. So it takes the time to sort of establish this really convincing world, and then you just see bits of it throughout the course of the story, but it's obvious that they've thought about the context of everything and how it all fits together and that sort of thing, and you see it from various different perspectives according to which playable character you're doing, and there's this fantastic atmosphere to it, which is sort of a secondary topic I want to talk about today, because it comes up in several of the games we're going to talk about, which is a concept I've come to think of as dark fairy. Which is basically the sort of juxtaposition between sort of brightly coloured anthropomorphic animal characters and then a pitch dark storyline that gets really scary and disturbing and upsetting along the way. And Freedom Planet absolutely nails that feeling throughout the course of its story. It starts sort of very sort of kind of happy and positive, but you can tell that there's something just not quite right about things that are going on. Because
there is a beheading in the opening cinematic.
Yeah, I was going to say. In the intro sequence, sort of the setup for the whole thing is like the leader of one of the countries gets beheaded by this horrifying alien monster, and like that sort of sets the tone of what you can expect from the rest of it. So there's torture scenes, there's people getting turned into mutants, there's violence, there's death, it's just incredibly dark, and sort of the closer you get to the end of the game, the more dramatic it gets, and sort of the more the voice actors really let loose as well. It's sort of really admirable how much sort of passion and stuff they put into the voice acting towards the end of the game. I don't know if you finished the story mode yet, so I won't give too much details.
I have not, unfortunately, because Death Stranding happened.
Yes,
I was trying to, and then Death Stranding happened.
Understandable. So I won't go into details at the minute, but sort of towards the end of Lilac's story in particular, Lilac is kind of positioned as she's the sort of spunky heroine. So she's a little bit impulsive. She gets into things. She wants to do the right thing, but she doesn't necessarily always think through what's going on. She goes through this really interesting arc throughout the course of the whole story, where she's sort of realizing that. Sort of partway through the story, she kind of realizes that she might have got in over her head this time. And there's this sort of, as you get towards the end, there's this really sort of emotional realization that like she's going to follow this through, whatever it takes. And sort of her final lines are just sort of screamed at the main villain, and there's just so much kind of passion and emotion there. It's not something I'm really used to seeing from a game that looks like this.
I was just gonna say, because it's a game that looks like this, but like because there's a whole redemption arc, right? Because there's the whole thing built into the story that only really reveals itself in like tidbits and discussions, but like that Lilac and Kero used to be thieves.
Yeah.
So like there's also like they're trying to do this good thing essentially also to atone for the people they used to be. Like there's a lot of like we're not those people anymore discussions.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like what?
Yeah. Yeah. Honestly, it's got to a point where like one of our earliest episodes we talked about the goosebump effect that music has. It's got to the point where like I can listen to like the final level tracks and the final boss music from Freedom Planet now, and I get that goosebump effect because I remember seeing those scenes and I remember how they felt when I saw them for the first time, and they were really upsetting and really sort of inspiring you to sort of finish the game at that point as well. And it's like I say, it's just not something I would traditionally expect to see from a game with sort of 32-bit style pixel art and so on. And it's just incredible that they've managed to achieve that with this, just with such a good balance between story and really, really solid gameplay. So it can't be. We can't overemphasize enough the amount that Freedom Planet just plays absolutely magnificently. It just plays so much like you want a modern 2D Sonic game to play, with these enhancements, with these additions, with these sort of beat 'em up style moves that you've got in there, with 3 different playable characters who all play very differently from one another,
with a motorcycle that can climb walls.
Yes. It's just magnificent, and it's just a game that, like, I knew it was good when I sort of played the first few levels of the PC version, but sort of when I sat down and actually decided to play all the way through the Switch version recently after getting the physical one from Limited Run, I was just like, I was floored by how good this game is.
It's the complete package. I am weirdly emotionally obsessed with this game.
Mm-hmm.
Like, when I played my physical, like when I got my copy from Limited Run and fired it up for the first time, like I straight up cried. Like I had to pause. I had to like pause it. Like I don't know what it is about this game that like connects with me so strongly, but like the soundtrack is a huge part of it. I'm not exaggerating when I say that the Freedom Planet soundtrack is my favorite video game soundtrack since Okami. Mm-hmm. Like, if you're listening to this, Woofle and Strife, know that I love you and thank you for making my life better. Mm-hmm. There are literally days that go by where at work, I will just listen to the Freedom Planet soundtrack on shuffle for like 9-hour days at work for like days in a row.
I've been there too.
The music of this game puts me in such a place, like emotionally, and comfort, and it just feels so good. Like this game is unbelievable.
And you haven't even finished it. It's going to destroy you when you finish it.
Oh, I have no doubt. And then I have it's reached the point where I'm considering doing one of my like wooden standees of Kero.
Yeah.
Knowing how big that sprite is, it's probably going to be like a couple feet tall.
Yeah.
Like I love this world and these characters and this game so much.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really incredible, and like I say, it was the main sort of impetus for us wanting to talk about this subject today, just because it's something that's come to mean a lot to both of us. So, what you described there, yeah, I feel exactly the same way. I've become so emotionally invested and obsessed with this game since I played it through. It's just constantly on my mind. It's never going to leave. It's always going to be an incredibly special experience to me.
It's one of my top like 10 games of all time, all time. Across all platforms. Have you played the demo for 2 yet?
I have not, no.
Because they add, what's her name, as a playable character. The panda lady with the spear.
Oh, cool.
And so that's a whole nother dynamic now, because you've got someone with a weapon.
Yeah.
So her play is very different.
Yeah. Yes, very much looking forward to that sequel. So there are obviously a lot of things that they've sort of learned from the development of the first Freedom Planet that they are going to plough into the sequel. You know, they've sort of specifically said that there was originally some DLC planned for the first Freedom Planet, but they've sort of taken a lot of the things that they had learned from the base game, and they're putting that into the sequel first rather than sort of just adding on to the first one with the DLC. So yeah, I'm really excited to see how that goes, because there's some great names working behind that as well. So sort of the original game was built on a system called Multimedia Fusion, which I find absolutely gobsmacking, because if you're not aware, Multimedia Fusion is essentially the most recent incarnation of what used to be known as Click and Play in the Games Factory.
Yeah.
Which were old sort of point and click based drag and drop game creation tools. Multimedia Fusion is obviously a lot more capable than those original versions, but still the fact that this was built using that rather than sort of programmed from scratch is just gobsmacking to me, just because they made such a wonderfully convincing modern retro game using this system, sort of with all the things you'd expect from that, with beautiful parallax scrolling, with beautiful pixel art, wonderful use of sound and music and that sort of thing. And it's made using a quote-unquote game creator. But the second one is being rebuilt from the ground up with the assistance of Christian Whitehead, who
which is unreal.
Who is best known for the amazing Xbox 360 versions of the early Sonic games, including the wonderful enhanced version of Sonic CD, and also for his work on Sonic Mania, of course. So you've got someone who has worked on actual Sonic games contributing to Freedom Planet 2, which is, so it's going to be something really special.
Yeah, I can't believe, like, this is such it's such an indie game, and like a niche indie game. Like, not everyone knows about Freedom Planet, but the talent involved in this series. Yeah. I can't remember the name I threw at you the other day too, but I had uncovered something too about the background artist for it. Like other stuff he had worked on that was unbelievable, and I can't remember. Oh no, it was because of that. I was looking at that Vertebreaker.
Oh yes,
that was that the Kickstarter failed on, and I was excited about that. But like the guy who's doing the background art for Vertebreaker also did the background art for Freedom Planet.
Yes, yeah. So yeah, Freedom Planet, absolute essential for anyone who is sort of interested in top quality 2D platformers, with or without storyline, because it's worth noting as well that if you just prefer a pure platforming experience, there is also a classic mode in there that completely cuts out all the narrative.
Yeah.
So you can play it as just a straight Sonic game if you want to as well, which is a lovely sort of inclusion for those people who don't want to sit through cutscenes. I mean, I recommend you do sit through the cutscenes because they're great, but and also it's worth looking up the outtakes as well. There's several scenes in the game where you can push a button combination and get a variation on the scene where the actors fluff up their lines, and they've bothered to actually animate the sprites to go along with the outtake as well. So there's just some wonderful scenes there as well if you look them up. But yeah, Yeah, absolutely fantastic experience. A great example of what we're talking about, and a great example of Dark Fairy as well, which will come up a few times in the subsequent ones. Certainly I want to mention as well. So
yeah, we got to get you hooked up with Dust.
Yes. Well, tell me a bit about Dust then, since you mentioned it.
I don't know. It's a really, really solid side scroller with kind of larger explorable stages and a heavy emphasis on kind of translating the Devil May Cry combat experience to a side scroller. So like it's gated arenas for fighting, and you have a really solid move set that like grows as you learn more things, and a heavy emphasis on voice acted narrative throughout the stages.
Yeah.
So like you have a fairy companion who's always speaking to you, and your sword is also sentient. So it's like this trio of three making their way through this kind of adventure. And the story is very much like focused on this kind of like war-torn region with like lots of politics. So like it's an example of kind of what you're talking about, where it's just like, yeah, it's these cute Saturday morning cartoon looking animal friends, but then also, oh no, genocide. Like it's just it's an interesting contrast and a very solid game.
Yeah. Would you count that among what we're talking about here, or if I just
no? It's a very modern. It's a very modern side scroller, just like fully animated 2D, very smooth animation. Like it's very much its own thing. There's no point. I mean, with the exception of kind of what I just mentioned, where like there's a hint of like Devil May Cry DNA in the combat. Like it's not really an homage game at all. It's very much its own thing.
All right, well, stick a pin in that then. I will play it at some point, because it's one I've been meaning to play for a long time, and we will talk about that in more detail another time then. All right, next one I probably wanted to bring up for this topic would be the first of two games from Daisuke Maya, or also known as Pixel, which is Cave Story. So Cave Story is probably one of the most well-known games to do what we're talking about here. And so Cave Story was sort of an homage to Famicom games, things like Metroid and stuff like that. So sort of the graphics in it are designed to kind of be very reminiscent of Metroid. Even like the sort of the screen layout and the interface and that sort of thing is quite Metroid-ish. So Cave Story is a side-scrolling open structure 2D platformer in which
we have built our own coffin.
Yeah, definitely. In which you explore and you find new weapons and you find new items and you follow a story through and that sort of thing. And it's an absolutely fantastic game with kind of an interesting story behind it, because Cave Story's been around for years at this point. It first emerged as a freeware game for PC, but over the years it's been enhanced and tweaked and remaked and re-released so many times for so many different platforms. So there are very few places you can't play Cave Story anymore. Again, this is one that I probably came to a little bit late in its lifetime. So sort of I'd come across the PC version briefly, but again, it was actually the first game I got for my Switch. So I got my Switch, and like the first game that someone bought for it for me was Cave Story Plus for Switch, which is one of the lovely releases from Nicalis, which has like a little manual and some bonus stuff in there as well.
They do a good job.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, that's a really great version of the game. So it's sort of the most up-to-date version of the game. There's sort of switchable graphics mode, so you can sort of make it look a bit more like the original PC version. Or there's a sort of the sort of slightly more modern mode they put in there. It's still very reminiscent of the Famicom, but it's still sort of, I don't know. It's kind of hard to describe. It still looks retro, but it also looks a bit more modern at the same time. It's kind of hard to describe what they've done with that, but it's a really nice look, certainly. And it's a great game. It's a great game. It's a really well-designed game with some interesting mechanics and stuff. It's got this sort of interesting upgradable weapon system that sort of rewards you for getting through situations without taking damage, because your weapons can actually level down if you take too much damage as well, and that sort of thing. So, and then sort of when your weapons are at their highest level, they can do certain things that they can't do otherwise. So, for example, the machine gun at its third level of power is so powerful that you can use it as a sort of impromptu jetpack almost. And that sort of thing. So there's lots of interesting mechanics in there to explore, and it's got this really cool story. And again, it's a kind of dark fairy thing.
It's rough stuff in Cave Story.
Yeah, Cave Story is seriously fucked up in places. It's but again, it's populated with sort of brightly coloured rabbit-like creatures who are super cute and that sort of thing. But then there's death and destruction and torture and people dying and slavery and all that sort of thing. And it's, I don't know. There's something. I think I love this thing, but it's one. It's what
I do too.
It's one of those things that sort of while you're experiencing, you're thinking, I'm really uncomfortable with this. I really don't like this. It's making me really uncomfortable. But anytime you think about that, you thought, no, I really enjoyed feeling uncomfortable in that way. It's just, I don't know. It's hard to describe. It's the same reason. Well, it's probably along the same lines as why you might enjoy sort of good horror and that sort of thing. You enjoy those negative sensations that it's provoking in you, while knowing that you're sort of safe from them, if you like.
Yeah, it's also removing humans from those tragic situations. Allows you to take a step back from them and examine the situations instead of just being viscerally upset by the fact that they're happening to humans.
Yes, but at the same time, it's also deeply upsetting when it's happening to cute little bunny rabbits. So I don't know. Pixel is an absolute master of this. Because the other game I'll talk about of his in just a moment is also extremely good at this. But it's just a really kind of distinctive atmosphere. In Cave Story, and as I say, in Freedom Planet does a very similar sort of thing as well, where it really emotionally invests you in what's going on using relatively minimal technology, but just the whole thing is so emotionally engaging. It really encourages you to want to actually engage with it mechanically as well, and actually want to get through and do that sort of thing. The one trouble with Cave Story is that getting the true ending involves going through one of the most nightmarishly difficult pieces of platforming I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's brutal. It's absolutely brutal.
I still haven't done it. I can't do it. I just can't, and it's frustrating because like the build up to it is just so great, and you're like, yes, I want to finish this, and then it hurls this absolutely horrendous sequence of challenges at you, and you're like, maybe I can't do this. But yeah. So I mean, what are your thoughts on Cave Story?
I mean, I love it. But you've pretty much covered it all there. It's just... Cave Story was revolutionary. Yeah. Cave Story is literally the first indie game I can name.
Yes.
Right? So, like... not that it was the first indie game, but it was, in my vocabulary, one of the first one to, like, get news coverage, to, like, become a title people talked about on the same par as other, like... I remember, like, the discovery of Cave Story.
Yes. It was noteworthy for being one of the first Japanese indie games, so it was sort of significant from that thing. It sort of kicked off a lot of the sort of more high-profile doujin scene that we have today. So yeah, you're not wrong to sort of think of it as a first of sorts, certainly.
Yeah, I mean, certainly not the first, but, like, in terms of, like, popular discussion... Mm-hmm. Around indie games. It was one of the ones to make it big. Yeah. It was one of the ones to have just the right amount of appeal and polish where it didn't feel like an experimental student thing. Yes. It actually felt like a package, and you could play it for free. It was revolutionary. And it's like a lot of my like memories of Cave Story are just specifically tied to that, like the important part it played in kicking off like the love of the indie scene that I have today. I mean, it's the one. It's the reason why I care so much about this whole side of the industry. And yeah, like to acquire that physical copy from the Callus on the Switch was like huge for me. Because really, previously, the only way to physically own Cave Story had been that 3DS version, and it was ugly and it had that weird 3D graphics, and I didn't care for it. So like. This was, like, Cave Story Plus on the Switch is, like, the definitive way to own Cave Story.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
It was such a huge get.
Yeah. Yeah, so, like I mentioned before, there's also another game by Pixel that is quite different to Cave Story in a lot of ways, but, again, it's got a few things in common with it as well, which is Kero Blaster. So, have you played this one that much?
I have. I've played a lot of Kero Blaster. I have it on Steam.
Yes. Yeah, so Kero Blaster, rather than taking the side-scrolling open structure 2D, 3D, 2D platformer, whatever, This Kero Blaster is more of an homage to games like Mega Man and Contra, in that you are playing a character going through linear levels. You are armed to the teeth with selectable weapons that can be upgraded, and you're working your way through a series of distinct linear challenges rather than exploring a massive world. So it's quite a different experience to Cave Story in terms of mechanics. And also, it's presented quite differently as well. So while Cave Story is sort of channeling the Famicom, Kero Blaster is kind of an interesting aesthetic. It's sort of kind of a cross between sort of late era 2600 almost, combined with early era NES. So it's got a lot less in the way of colour and detail than Cave Story has, and it's lower resolution and that sort of thing. But again, it's sort of above what would have been possible on, like I say, late era 2600 or something like that. So it's got a very distinctive,
more colors on screen at once than would have been possible,
and also
stuff like
and stuff like parallax scrolling and that sort of thing as well. So it's a good example of what we've described as modern retro before. So it's taking the sort of overall look and feel of something, but then kind of combining that with modern techniques and appearances and that sort of thing to produce something that has a very distinct appearance that is distinctly its own. And yeah, I love Kero Blaster. It's one that I've sort of been playing off and on. I think I reviewed it back when I was on US Gamer. I've reviewed both the PC version and the iOS version as well. And it came out on Switch a while back as well. I missed out on the physical version of this at one point. Did they do the Switch version physical? I forget.
No,
just the PS4, wasn't
Vita,
it?
Vita and PS4.
Okay, so
I'm looking at it. I'm looking up copies of it right now because you reminded me of how much I want it.
Yeah. So again, there may well be a possibility of a physical Switch version at some point, but so this is a really cool game. So in this game, you play a frog who his name is never mentioned throughout the game. In fact, no one's name is ever mentioned throughout the game. They all have names. That apparently in one of the game modes, if you go into a particular secret room, you can find out what all their names are. But other than that, they're just there. So you play a frog who works at a company called Cat and Frog Incorporated, and they make teleporters. And Frog is he's involved in custodial sciences. Which means he is the janitor, basically. And it's his job to go out and basically fix the teleporters when they're not working. And at the start of Kero Blaster, it seems these teleporters have stopped working because there's these weird black creatures have started appearing all around the place. And at the same time, something very strange is happening to his boss, who is the cat of Cat and Frog Incorporated. And sort of over the course of the game, there's some really, frankly, quite horrifying things happen to this boss character. She sort of gets all bloated and horrifying and changes colour and that sort of thing, and you sort of get revelations over the course of the story as to what is causing this or what might have caused this. It takes great care to not be absolutely specific on what causes all this, but you can sort of draw your own conclusions about that sort of thing, and there's some interesting theory crafting on the internet as to exactly what the setup of Kero Blaster actually is and where this all came from. And there's some fascinating discussions there. I'll leave you to look up if you want to. But again, it's good.
There's certainly an air of mystery about the Kero Blaster almost feels like a creepypasta.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Like there's a weirdness to it that's like, is this even a thing?
Yes.
What is going on?
Yeah. So again, Kero Blaster has this thing where it starts out like as a sort of cutesy game starring a frog with a machine gun, but over the course of the game, it gets seriously dark and creepy as it goes through. It gets more and more creepy as you go on, and the second to last level, it sort of takes various parts of the second to last level are sort of glitched out as well. So like you'll go into the shop and the colours are all wrong and the music's all distorted and that sort of thing, and it's really creepy. And again, it's that sort of thing where you sort of feel really uncomfortable while you're playing it, and you sort of think about it afterwards and you think that was really cool.
Yeah.
But Kero Blaster is really good just because it has a solid understanding of what the games it's paying homage to, what made them fun. So again, in Kero Blaster, we've talked previously about how in Contra you feel powerful but also quite fragile. Kero Blaster does that quite well. So you're not quite as fragile as you are in Contra, in that you can take more than one hit before you die, but you've got that feeling of power because you've got these upgradable weapons that become incredibly powerful by the end of the game. but it's also quite easy to take damage in many ways. So you start the game with just 2 hearts, so you can only take 2 hits before you die at the start of the game, but you can upgrade your health bar as you go through. There's a sort of ghouls and ghosts style jacket you can get as well, which acts like the armor in that. It protects you from a single hit, and there's an achievement for finishing the game with the jacket on and that sort of thing. But yeah, it just understands what made these games really appealing. It's got excellent level design, despite them being linear levels. They've got really interesting designs to them, and the boss fights
that really stood out.
Yeah,
to me
the
too.
boss fights are a real highlight. So they really take the sort of Mega Man approach of being very obviously pattern based and encouraging you to learn these patterns, but they're distinctive and they're fun to engage with. And it's not just a case of dodge out of the way, then fire, then dodge, then fire. There's different phases to these battles. There's sort of different ways of dealing with their attacks.
There's a puzzle element too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, because like there's a right weapon for the job.
Yes,
and it's like figuring that out.
Yeah, absolutely. And then there's once you beat the game for the first time, there's then a second route through the game called Zangyo mode or overtime mode, where you play sort of different versions of the levels with sort of different harder versions of the bosses and so on. So in many cases there you have to sort of completely change your strategy for the bosses. So there's a good example, like there's in the basic game there's a boss that you're fighting on the back of a train, and so in the base game you're just sort of standing on the back of this train carriage. In the Zangyo mode, the train sort of buggers off as soon as this boss appears, so you have to sort of take a flying leap onto this little handcart that's being pushed by a pair of penguins that puts you behind the boss, and so you have to fight it from this completely different angle on the other mode there. So yeah, there's some
that's so cool.
Some really cool stuff in there, and sort of a different story to explore. And it's a story that's quite subtly told, but it's got plenty to say. But it does it without sort of pushing things in your face. So like the overtime mode is about sort of overworked salarymen in Japan and that sort of thing. So like the main antagonist in Zangyo mode is a work producing machine.
I don't know anything about that.
But yeah, it's just great. It works well as an homage because it obviously understands what made its source material great, but then it puts its own twist on things with its own story, its own unique method of presentation, its wonderful music, its wonderful design, that sort of thing. So yeah, Kero Blaster is an absolutely fantastic game.
Sweet. Yeah, I love that game too. I really do got to get a copy of that. I've been waiting and hoping for a Switch version, but I may just bite the bullet and pop on eBay and get it for the PS4.
Yeah. All right, so those were the 3 main ones that I wanted to talk about today. Did you have any other stuff in mind that you wanted to bring up?
I did. I had a couple interesting ones.
Cool, let's hear it.
Because this is something I'm pretty partial to specifically as a topic. One of the things I wanted to bring up is this is a company that we've talked about before, but under kind of different contexts. So I wanted to bring up Astroport.
Okay.
Because I know you've had some experiences that were positive with them. Specifically, I know you love Zangeki Warp.
Oh, yes. Zangeki Warp and Satazius are the 2 that I've played from them.
Yeah, so Zangeki Warp isn't an example of this, because Zangeki Warp is very much them trying to do their own thing. Mm-hmm. But I'm thinking very specifically about Satazius. Satazius was very deliberately an effort to celebrate Gradius.
Yes.
Konami's Gradius. And it does that in 2 ways. First of all, it has a weapons system, a power-up system where you have your power-ups are on the bottom of the screen, and you have to choose where you invest the points to level those power-ups up, just the same way Gradius does. It has its own quirks, obviously, but it was very much an attempt to say, like, we enjoyed this system in Gradius, like, let's bring it to the forefront in our own game as well. So it feels like Gradius. Another way it actually felt like Gradius, which is something I think a lot of people neglect when they talk about the design of that series specifically, is that Satazius does a really good job of creating claustrophobic stages. Where stage hazards are an important part of the gameplay. This isn't something that every shmup does. So, like, shoot 'em ups as a genre often just throw you into kind of empty places where enemy patterns and bullet patterns are the primary hazard. But every now and then you get a shooter that also says, like, hey, we can throw objects and navigation into the mix as part of the gameplay, part of the resistance the player is going to face. And Gradius is one of the very earliest games to do this, to not be afraid to put you in caves or industrial tunnels where the scrolling would speed up and you actually had to fly around these hazards, or super claustrophobic meteor fields where you had to like drive around these heavenly bodies, and so survival was tied to navigation as much as it was like defeating enemies and deftly weaving around bullet patterns. And Satazius pays tribute to this very, very well. More so than a lot of modern shoot-'em-ups do, because the focus these days is to really celebrate bullet hell and focus on enemy placement and patterns. So this kind of clever stage design is a little less common. So I just wanted to give props to Satazius for bringing that to the forefront again in a relatively newer game.
Yeah, it's interesting, because if we look back at the history of shoot-'em-ups, like the earliest shoot-'em-ups, like the fixed shooters, they were what you described. They were like an empty space with enemies in it, and all the obstacles were the enemies and the bullets they were firing at you. And then we had a period of games that are like what you're describing. So sort of before Gradius came out, we had stuff like Scramble and Super Cobra and Caverns of Mars and that sort of thing. So that was a very distinct era of earlier shoot-'em-ups that is sort of kind of ebbed and flowed a bit over time. So it sort of disappeared for a while, and then it came back, and then it disappeared, and then it came back, and it sort of raised its head every so often in the shoot-'em-up genre. And yes, Satazius is a really good recent example of that. There's some wonderful set pieces in Satazius as well that make good use of that. So there's one of the bosses, for example, quite early in the game, where you fly into a cave system, and this boss is chasing you from behind through this cave system. And there's sort of junctions at various points in the cave system, so you need to choose which way you're going to go quite quickly, otherwise you'll fly into the rock in the middle, and that sort of thing. You got to do this all the time while this thing is chasing you and making you panic, and it's just it's an incredible experience.
Yeah, they do a very good job. And then also the Gigantic Army and Steel Strider.
Yes.
Which were their attempts to celebrate the Satazius Lenos series. A very specific emphasis on these kind of chunky, mechanical giant robot side-scrolling with heavy weapons and a proper balance of fragility and power, right? Like, very easy to get overwhelmed. And I can't speak to them too much because they're very basic games, but this was a very specific style of giant robot side-scroller that was very popular in the 16-bit and early 32-bit eras.
Yeah.
We've seen a resurgence lately of this kind of game being celebrated and brought to the forefront. A couple weeks ago, I talked about Rocket Punch's Hardcore Mecha, which is another example of this.
Yeah.
There actually was a HD remake of the original Satazius Lenos a couple years ago for the PS4. And then there was also Gunhound EX, which I know you played that one.
Yes.
We used to talk about that a little bit. But yeah, so I love these games that are paying tribute to that very specific niche genre. And Gigantic Army was one of really the first games I ever played that just kind of said, like, hey, do you remember Satazius Lenos? Like, let's make a new one. And so yeah, I just really like Astroport's output. I mean, they've made a lot of other games too, but I just wanted to highlight Satazius, Gigantic Army, and Steel Strider as a great example of these kind of homage games where they're paying tribute to a very specific series.
Yeah, definitely.
They had that other one too, Wolf Flame, which I think feels a little bit like the Lair Section series, but it's been a long time since I played that one.
I've not come across that one before.
So that Wolf Flame was their first attempt at a vertical shoot-'em-up.
Oh, okay.
So that's worth looking into as well.
Yeah.
And another studio I wanted to discuss was Joymasher.
Right.
So Joymasher is a studio from Brazil, which makes really cool games that are very kind of accurate recreations of like the looks and feels of certain genres. And their games in a lot of ways almost feel like mashups of like a bunch of games from that genre, doing like a best of sampling.
Yeah.
So like they first came onto the scene with Oniken, which was kind of an attempt to make a celebration of a very specific style of NES era action side-scroller. So it feels a little bit like Ninja Gaiden and a little bit like those great Natsume action games. I'm thinking about like Shatterhand, Shadow of the Ninja, Power Blade, just that very specific like action anime 8-bit side-scroller. And like it has a very specific look and feel, and they really nail the way, like, it's something simple, but like the way the sword swing works in that game, like the way you pull it out and it like flashes, like shing, and it makes that like sound.
Yeah.
Like it's such a very specific physicality to that feels spot on with the way Ninja Gaiden, like the attacking in Ninja Gaiden worked.
Yeah.
Like, so they really hit the nail on the head with that. And these mechanical anime stages where you're in these industrial factories with like the churning gears in the background and like neon green vats of goo with like monsters that like bust out of them. And like, it's a very specific look and feel that these old Natsume games in the Ninja Gaiden series had. And it's really fascinating to me how Joy Masher is able to really isolate what made those games look and feel so good and then make a new game that does that. And then they did it again with their next game, which was Odalis, The Dark Call, which was it's a little bit of Castlevania, and I think a lot of people compare Odalis to Castlevania because of the gothic horror elements.
Yeah.
But it doesn't really play much like Castlevania. It actually plays more like a Euro platformer, like on like the 16-bit computers. You know what I mean by that? Whereas like those games had a tendency to have like larger explorable stages with like. It wasn't just a point A to point B affair. So we're not talking like a Metroid style, like open world, but each stage is contained, but there's a whole lot of options. Do I go down the cave or do I climb up in the trees? And like your experience in the stage is a little different. And there's keys to find and circuitous routes to take. It's not just a straight line. And they did a really good job of kind of recreating the look and feel of that style of side-scroller. There's inventory and weapon upgrades and things to collect that amass on a sidebar border, and it's just the limited color palette of the 8-bit style is really strong there. It's just another great example of them taking a genre that they appreciated and recreating it. Their most recent game, Blazing Chrome, is a tribute to Contra.
Yes.
I have not had the opportunity to play Blazing Chrome yet. My copy is currently on pre-order with limited runs, so I'll be very excited to give that a try and kind of report back to it next time we have a what we're playing discussion after I've gotten it. But, if you look up the footage of that, it just appears to be spot on.
Yeah, I've heard very good things about that. Like when it released digitally, several people I know bought it and had very nice things to say about it. So I think you're in for a good time there.
I'm very excited. More specifically because it doesn't just appear to be trying to recreate the look and feel of Contra. It's trying to create the look and feel of a very specific era of Contra, which is the really bombastic 16-bit era.
Yes.
I'm thinking specifically about Contra Hardcore, which is far and away my favorite Contra game, and not just because I can be a werewolf with a Gatling gun for a hand, but just the set pieces and the insanity of Contra Hardcore, it always sticks in my brain as one of the best side-scrollers ever made.
Yeah.
So to see the ways that Blazing Chrome really appears to be celebrating that makes it a really exciting proposition for me.
Cool.
Let's see, what else did I have? Another really kind of not well-known game that I think more people should be talking about. Joylancer, the legendary motor knight.
Okay, never heard of that one.
Are you familiar with this game?
No. Tell me more.
Oh yeah. Google this business. You won't be disappointed. So Joylancer is by Alpha 6 Productions. It's still in early access and has been since 2014. They just keep kind of building stuff into it. Now Joylancer is kind of unlike the other games I've talked about, which are paying tribute to a very specific genre or series, is more like what Pete was referring to with Pixel's work. It's very much just a broader celebration of a specific era or style of game.
Oh, this looks. I was just gonna say this looks great.
Yeah. So what's magical about Joylancer? And special about Joylancer is it's very common to make a pixel art game these days. And pixel art games almost always are celebrating the 8 and 16-bit genres in a very specific way. A very specific look of either the NES, Super NES, or Genesis / Mega Drive. But what Joylancer has tried to do in the modern retro homage sphere is recreate the look and feel of a Game Boy Color game.
Yes, definitely.
And this is something, the only other game I can really think of that did this was that Save Me Mr. Taco, the one that with the little cute octopus. That was a modern Game Boy game. But Joylancer is very specifically a Game Boy Color game. And it using an exceedingly limited color palette in the same way that Game Boy Color games did. Now, as an example of modern retro, like we've been talking about, Joylancer does a ton of stuff that Game Boy Color couldn't do, right? Mm-hmm. Like the speed of movement, the frame rates it achieves, the size and number of enemies on screen, all impossible for the Game Boy hardware. But it just looks like a Game Boy game.
Yeah.
Like the sprites with the limited color palettes. And something we talk about a lot when we talk about pixel art as a practice is very suggestive use of pixel, in the sense that, like, when you're working with a tiny sprite, you have to only suggest the line of a mouth, suggest where an eye might be, just kind of using one pixel that's a different shade.
Yeah.
Right? You can't make a whole eye. You've only got like 8 pixels to work with for the head of a character. This game does that very well through use of color and shading to really flesh these characters out with an exceedingly small amount of pixels. And it just looks looks like a classic Game Boy Color game, but plays like a treasure-developed Game Boy Advance game in terms of how like bombastic the action and the explosions and the movement speed. It's a real pleasure. And there's tons of like options for color filters and side borders, so it almost feels like you're playing a Game Boy game on the Super Game Boy, because you have like the options for colors and filters and borders. It's really special, and I'm really excited to be able to talk about it, because I don't think a lot of people have played this.
No, I'm just looking it up now. It seems like it's been kind of in development for quite a long time from the look of things.
Yes, since 2014, it's been in early access.
Yeah, and there's a lot of bitching on Steam about the developers going quiet for a very long time. But judging from the discussion boards, it looks like they're still working on it. They're still experimenting with different things with it, and sort of adding.
I mean, it's basically a full game.
Yeah,
like, whatever.
Yeah,
like play it. Like, it's basically a full game. There's never a point where I played Joylancer in 2014, like, because I had been following the initial announcements of it. Like, I got it right away when it hit early access. It's also the only early access game I've ever paid for. Mm-hmm. Like, because I fundamentally don't agree with early access as a concept, but like, I was just so smitten with the look and feel of this game.
Yeah,
that I had to have it. But like, even playing it back in 2014, and it's evolved a lot since then. Mm-hmm. Like, it didn't. I was never like, this feels incomplete. Yeah. Like, it felt like a proper game. Like,
yeah,
just play it. It's worth it.
No, it looks really cool. I love the Game Boy Color aesthetic that they've got going on. Just before you mentioned that, I was trying to nail what looks so distinctive about it. Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's that deliberately distinctive color palette from the Game Boy Color specifically. Yeah,
like wonderful. Ugly teal greens and like purples, and like
bright
reds,
purples everywhere, and like entire sprites that are just orange with black on them.
Yeah. It doesn't. Yeah, it's one of those aesthetics where it's like, why would anyone ever choose this? It's so garish, but it just looks so, like, when you think about stuff like Shantae, or there was a fighting game I used to love on the Game Boy Color called Power Quest.
Yeah.
And this game looks so much like Power Quest. It's ridiculous. I just love it. I love it so much. Because I, as someone who likes pixel art as a practice and an art form, I find specifically the limitations and the aesthetic of the Game Boy really pleasing.
Yes, me too.
So just this game speaks to me in a very strong way. And I really do hope one day they do finish it so I can own it physically and celebrate it in that way as part of my collection.
Yeah, that'd be super cool. And like in the meantime, while it's still early access, it's only £6.99 as well. So yeah, I might have to grab a copy of that later.
Oh yeah, totally. I want to hear your impressions on it. Because I love this game. Okay, so I had one more.
Already?
I had one more, which I think is a really cool game we're talking about, and that's Oceanhorn.
Oh, okay, yes.
Yeah, have you ever played Oceanhorn?
I haven't. I'm familiar with it, but I haven't actually played it.
Yeah, so Oceanhorn's just Zelda. Like it's just a really charming recreation of Zelda, a Zelda style game with its own story and its own aesthetic. The aesthetic being very specifically like a coastal aesthetic where like islands are a really important part of the story.
Yeah.
But it looks and feels just like an old school top-down Zelda game. And funny enough, Oceanhorn came out 2015.
Yep.
And when the new Zelda remake of Link to the Past was announced, with its like toy box aesthetic, I remember very specifically thinking, "Holy shit, this looks like Oceanhorn!" Like because that's what I loved about Oceanhorn is it had this. It has, this is something we dedicated an episode to at one point, but like Oceanhorn has one of those aesthetics where it looks like you can reach into the screen and touch it.
Yeah.
Like everything has a sheen and like a very specific boxy look to it where it looks like a diorama. And that entire look speaks to me in a big way. And so I thought it was really cool when the Link to the Past remake came out because I was like, who having played Oceanhorn was like, this looks like Oceanhorn. Mm-hmm. Like, which was cool because everyone's always like, Oceanhorn's just Zelda. So,
and you're like, but then yes, it is.
Yeah, but then there was a point where I was like, but this new Zelda's Oceanhorn, which made me smile.
Yeah.
So that's a really cool game, and I recommend people check it out because you can play the Zelda remake and enjoy the Zelda remake, but it's a remake. Mm-hmm. Like, so if you grew up with Link to the Past, you know where all the stuff is already.
Yeah.
So Oceanhorn's great because it's a new Zelda game. Mm-hmm. Like if you haven't played it, it's new puzzles, new dungeons. It's everything that's cool about a Zelda game, just with a unique story and setting.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, really, really like that one. Yeah, so those are just some examples I came up with games that kind of really nail that homage development style.
Absolutely, yeah. And as always, I think there's a whole lot more we could probably talk about on this subject as well. So it may well be something we return to at some point because, like, as we're talking here, I'm just thinking of other games. Like, oh yeah, I wish I mentioned that. But maybe we'll save that for another time because there's
there's a lot.
A lot more to talk about, certainly. But yeah, I'm glad.
Because I wanted to talk about A Hat in Time, too, because I've been playing that recently, and that's a great example of that, too. But we'll wait on that one.
Alrighty. Okay, so we'll put a pin in that and maybe save that for another week when we need to decide on something to talk about. All right, let's wrap that up for today then. So, would you like to tell people where to find you online, as usual, please?
Yes, as always, you can find my artwork on MrGilderPixels.com. I'm also available on Instagram and Twitter at MrGilderPixels, although I haven't been particularly active lately. For that, I apologize, but Death Stranding. So.
You're excused.
I gotta deliver pizzas, man. Listen, you gotta deliver pizzas, and if you accidentally put them in your backpack vertically, you ruin the pizza. You blow the delivery.
Fantastic.
Like, it's...
Yeah.
Good times.
I'm not going to shame you for anything. Don't worry. I'm just happy that you're finding some time to play some video games again. It's important.
It really is. I've been very happy.
Yeah, definitely. All right, and you can find me as usual on MoeGamer.net, writing stuff most days. You can find me on YouTube as well, doing my Atari A to Z series on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays, and also some other stuff on Wednesdays and Fridays. So on Wednesdays we have Warriors Wednesday, where we're currently playing through Warriors All Stars, which is a fantastic game. Chris will back me up on that. Yes. And on Fridays we are playing through the Final Fantasy games. We're currently coming towards the end of Final Fantasy 1 on PSP, working our way through the end game dungeons, the Soul of Chaos. This podcast is available in audio-only format and video format. If you're listening to this on SoundCloud or Spotify or iTunes, you can also watch it on YouTube and see some fancy images to go along with what we're talking about. And if you're watching on YouTube, you can subscribe on any of those services I've just mentioned. So soundcloud.com/MoeGamer, or just search for us on Spotify and iTunes. You can find us there as well. Just remains for us to say then, as always, thank you very much for watching and or listening, and we'll see you again next time. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please help out the channel by leaving a like or a comment and subscribing. Be sure to check out MoeGamer.net for new articles on Japanese and Japanese-inspired video games, new and old, every weekday. Every month, MoeGamer features an in-depth exploration of an individual game or series as its cover game, so be sure to check the archives to see if your favourite has had a deep dive yet. If you'd like to support the site directly, please consider becoming a patron or buy me a coffee. You can find links to do both down in the video description. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.